Is it the 18th or the 19th of January? It's still the 18th here in Australia, and I thought I'd bring you some news as you wake up in New York. Happy to report that New York Yacht Club American Magic, after all the ordeal of the past 24 hours, think they're back in the race. Hopefully they make it back in time for the Prada Cup Challenger Series semi-final. Terry Hutchinson says they're here to race, so why wouldn't they? Great to have you joining me this evening for our AC chat and wrap. Well, this evening in Australia, it is 10:15 p.m. on Monday evening, but I know on the east coast of the US you guys are just waking up, so I thought I would bring you a little bit of news that you may not have heard overnight. Fantastic to hear that New York Yacht Club American Magic, with a lot of help from a lot of sailors, as we have seen over the past 24 hours, are confident that they should get back in the race. The last time I was with you was just before we were about to hear from Terry Hutchinson in a press conference to tell us a little bit more about just what went down and what happened. I do have quite a nice little review clip with the actual footage combined with his words, which we will show as we progress through this show. But to start with, I thought we would just cover in an interview with Terry Hutchinson straight after the press conference, just how did you capsize, Terry? Just tell us what happened. So, here we go.
A lot of wind, a rudder stall, a little bit of apparent wind going aft, and probably not enough boat speed as we bore away. You know, the Traveler, probably the most indicative thing is that when we started our bear away, the Traveler was already all the way down, and so there wasn't a lot more for Goody to give with main sheet ease, and that's kind of the telltale sign. I mean, that's after looking at the video and seeing everything. You know, when you're on the boat racing the boat, you know, you're oblivious to that. You know, you're just going for it pretty much the entire time, and Paul gives some comms, but you know, there's a lot going on through those maneuvers. And you know, so when we evaluated, that's kind of the first thing that stood out. But it didn't, on board, it didn't feel like anything out of the norm. I mean, earlier in the race, we'd done one going around the right-hand gate, so you know, we'd practiced that maneuver 100 times, and this one went a little bit haywire on us.
This one went a little bit haywire on us. For those who have raced at a very high level, you know, you just have to keep pushing. Unfortunately, when you capsize a boat that's 75 feet long, or more so, when you basically hurtle a boat through the air for about, 75 meters and then land, it doesn't end well, as we've seen. So, you know, far out. Just my hat is off to these people for continually pushing, but then at what point are you pushing and racing or protecting your asset? It's a fine line, but you can't win if you don't push. So all we can do at this point is say we're really happy everyone's safe, and we're really happy that it looks like we've got a race happening. So yeah, very exciting. So that's the first little bit of gold that we had from Terry Hutchinson in the press conference. Well, that was actually post-press conference. It was quite good, actually. A few little moments, if you haven't gotten to watch it. If you head to www.sailorgirlhq.com, you can watch the press conference in full, which was fantastic. Sorry, my phone's just sliding down my keyboard there. I'm in a studio at 10:15 at night, which happens to be my bedroom. So we're just making do so that I can make sure I keep you guys posted and up to date on what is happening. But yeah, far out. Unbelievable. So the next thing that we hear from Terry, how bad is the damage?
We're going to be back on the water for sure. The damage is bad, but we're going to be back on the water. 100%.
The damage is bad, but we're going to be back on the water. 100%. So there you go. To anybody waking up in New York right now, hopefully that keeps you happy and makes some big smiles for your Monday morning. I think that has to be the best Monday morning news ever, given just what we went through yesterday. unbelievable. I've actually spoken a little bit to Terry myself personally, and he, gosh, he's strong. Dignity, grace all the way. And as I was saying before, if you want to watch that entire press conference, you can see it at sailorgirlhq.com before my phone so rudely started sliding down my keyboard. What was fun in the press conference was Terry Hutchinson saying that he won't have a go at Emirates Team New Zealand for bringing out 30 pizzas to everyone as they were trying to help rescue the boats and bring them in when they're sponsored by McDonald's, because they would have preferred pizza anyway. So there was a good little bit of banter going on, and you can see the humour starting to come out. So that's kind of nice. You know that people are starting to look forward and be positive when you start to hear the banter and the positivity. That's just how we roll in sailing. And speaking of Emirates Team New Zealand and just how much they helped and have offered to help as well, it sounds like Grant Dalton has said, you can have anything that you want. Anything that you want, you can have. And a shout out to the adventurer who then commented, why didn't they say, can we have your boat? That'd be great. Just give us your boat. That'd be fantastic. We'll just take the Defender's boat and go racing. But in the spirit of things, this is an absolutely stunning image from StudioBorlenghi and the America's Cup just there. Peter Burling at the top. I did show an image yesterday of him grabbing the jib as well and hurling that in, but you can see all of the Kiwis here helping the Americans. Just unbelievable. And in the VNR as well. So there's a stack of footage, and you can see Falcone in the mix from Prada. Everybody was on hand and everybody was digging in and really helping. So, yeah, just absolutely incredible scenes, really, of what we saw. So in case you didn't get to see some of these scenes, you'll see here the capsize, and this is the recovery effort specifically. So the boat being righted and then being underwater. And this is the state of play, and this was before they knew there was a giant hole in the port side of the hull, which you may have seen also on my Facebook and Twitter. Here's some of the pumps going in. Terry said at one time there were 16 pumps working to try and keep Patriot afloat. We've just had somebody say, Darren, if it doesn't bend or break or crack, it's too heavy. Exactly. Well, this boat isn't too heavy when it's not full of 1 million litres of water. You can see that. That's how deep the boat got. They're actually standing on the boat there. You can see Nick Dana in the mix. There's the whole team. And this is where you can see the defenders mixing in. There's Morris. There's Goody. There's Pete Burling. Leaning over and actually knifing some boys off as they're starting to get it under control. Yep. And here's the pumps at work. Magnesi there. Burling pointing and helping. Just phenomenal. There's Bit Barker. And here's Falcone off Prada, still in his sailing kit. They actually managed to get a sling, like virtually a dry dock underneath the boat to try and lift the bow out of the water. And at sunset, they finally started heading back to the dock. So absolutely crazy images there, but as we now know, they have made it back to the dock. There's bits of the boat coming off there. And sunset before the boat actually came out of the water. So yes, this image is my cover photo on Facebook at the moment, just because I think it represents all of those images that we can see there in that footage, which is just crazy. So Ted Riemann says sailing is one big family, a competitive one though, when we're on the water. But yes, when something goes wrong, and we saw in the interviews that I showed in my show from earlier today with Ben Ainsley and also Bruni from Prada, that nobody wants to see this happen. You don't want to win this way. We want to win in our races, not because of an issue or an accident. So, yeah, I think at this point we might hear what Terry thought happened from his perspective. So again, if you're waking up with us in New York, I can report that New York Yacht Club American Magic are pretty confident that they're going to make it in time for the Prada semi-final?
Yeah, I mean, it was all, business as usual. And for me, when we bore away, I was grinding as hard as I possibly could because I know Goody's going to do a big ease, and we're going to have to trim it back on, and we're going to take off down the race course. When I heard Dean say I'm going to lose the rudder here, I thought I better work on my escape route. And my escape route was a little bit compromised, so I got my knife out and started whacking myself away to try to get out of the boat. And fortunately, had a couple good teammates there to do the same and help me out. And they didn't swim by going, just leave them. But Cooper grabbed his knife and cut one thing that was holding me into the boat, and we swam out underneath the mainsail.
Yeah, pretty serious business there, and knives are very important tools. I know I got a knife for my 21st birthday. I was sailing Yinglings at the time, so we were hobbled into the boat. Does anyone remember Yinglings? Oh, such beautiful, glamorous boats. So, yeah, very scary, or what was a very scary scenario turning into a very beautiful one, as we saw just before those scenes of everybody helping out. Nobody wants to be in that situation, but if they come back from this, that's going to be a pretty good story. So we heard from Terry earlier that the damage is bad, but they're going to race. They're here to race. They work too hard to not race. So pretty crazy. So basically, in the shed at the moment, those boat builders, they probably deserve about 100 coffees, maybe some sneaky scotch in their coffee while they're grinding back the boats. But just what is going on in the shed right now? Here's Terry again.
Yeah, there's quite a frenzy of activity. Obviously, we got some work to do to get Patriot back into race condition. She has a reasonable hole in her port side, and guys are cutting it out and getting it ready to repair. And from there, it's a little bit of a step-by-step from the boat building, and then there's the electronic side of the boat that has to go through the same type of process. So we have some great technicians inside the team, and we're bringing in, I think, 4 more to help, that guys that have worked with us in the past that are going to help support the operation over the next week and a half.
Unbelievable. But a little bit of gold that we missed out there that was spoken about in the press conference. American Magic actually have a complete backup set of electronics. So they have everything ready to go straight into the boat once she's fixed. They just need to remember how it was in Patriot and put it back in. They also have Defiant with them, which was their test boat. So there are a few things left in Defiant that they can use to transfer across. So yeah, the structural, longitudinal aspects, and then the electronics. So there's quite a process to happen. And Lindsay Patterson says, Scotch, you mean rum? I'm not really a rum person, actually. Maybe white rum. But I feel after being out on the water that long and that late, Scotch is usually quite good, especially to warm you up too. So, but that's what's going on in the shed. I think as people are commenting here and just saying, you have to have a boat to finish, and that is something very, very true. But also at this level of racing, if you don't push, you can't win. So it's a really fine line that these sailors have to work or to walk and to work, because they're athletes. This is their job. So they have to get results. But where is that line? So I think that Terry put this really well when we asked him about basically how hard do you have to push? How do you get the most out of your asset? Do you regret anything?
When we reviewed it, it doesn't really, we were coming in, we were about a minute out, and the breeze was 12 and a half, 13 knots. And you could hear the dialogue, nice pressure on the left-hand side. We want to go down the left-hand side looking upwind. And when we got up to the top, it just, very quickly, it got very windy. And, a couple split-second decisions, we took what we thought was the correct thing to do, and it bit us. From there, it didn't really seem any different or anything out of the norm. It just, a lot of grinding and a lot of good, consistent discussion that we've had over the last year and a half of sailing the boats together. So it all, fortunately or unfortunately, the boat's on the edge, and you have to race it that way to get the most out of it. And when I say on the edge, it's controlled. It's not like you go out there every single day thinking, oh my God, you go out there thinking we're going to race this thing as hard as we possibly can, like we do on any boat. And that's what we did, and this time it bit us a little bit.
Indeed, it bit them a little bit, but they managed to get the boat back to the dock because of all the help they received, which is fantastic. And all of you guys watching who think that you don't push boats to the limit, I mean, just look at all the photos that you've been posting in response to that lovely matchy image from the international 18-foot skiffs. If you haven't seen it, there's an 18-foot skiff on the exact same plane as AC 75, but I think an 18-foot skiff coming down and landing is very different to an AC 75 hitting the water after it lands. So yeah, that line though is something that these guys have to consistently work between what is too much, what is enough, what's going to win you the cup. Who knows really? But here I think Terry really sums it up in their team mentality and just what we can expect from them. There's a lot of people commenting saying it's amazing to see his positivity. He's an exceptionally positive person and he believes in his team to no end, Terry Hutchinson. So here are a few words from him on what we can expect from their team over the next 2 weeks.
I know the guys in the shed and our entire team really is committed to racing. We didn't come all this way and do everything that we had to not be out racing. So we know that we are going to have to forego next weekend, and so we're into Plan B, which is racing our way through the semifinal. And up until this point, we've done a great job, as a team, pushing ourselves off the dock in conditions that are hard, getting the boat ready and reliable to go racing, and now we have another chance to prove our resolve collectively as a group, and it's a great measure for our team. I drink out of our punch bowl pretty heavily, so I'm a little bit biased, but I have the utmost confidence in us to do what we need to do in the amount of time, because we've done it for the last 3 years. So it feels a little bit of business as usual.
Business as usual, getting a boat ready to go racing with a significantly tight time frame to race at the highest end of our sport. I guess that's business as usual for some of us. Absolutely crazy. And thank you so much for your comments. If you do have any questions, please do let me know. And remember, you can follow us on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube or Instagram. And we're at Sailor Girl HQ on all of those channels. I have a few people saying, so all the electronics will be transferred out of the primary damaged boat into the second boat or vice versa. They'll be using this primary boat, Patriot. This is the boat that they have declared as the boat that they will be racing for the Old Mug or for the Prada Cup. And we will see if they're able to be the challenger to go on to race in the match. But as I reported earlier, they have a full set of electronics, a full set of new electronics that they can use to go into that hull. So the hull has a lot of repairs to come, and there are a lot of electrical systems that need to be replaced and put back into Patriot so that she's ready to go. Because as we all know, these boats have an immense amount of stuff under the hood, basically. So, yeah. Oh, I don't envy those guys. They're going to be very, very busy. But we saw what Ben Ainsley and his team could do in 3 weeks. And let's not forget what a great job they're doing of leading the series at this point. And we will talk a little bit more about that in just 1 minute before we close out. But in full, for those who are joining us and maybe waking up on the east coast of US, the New York Yacht Club American Magic team today announced that they're pretty sure and very confident that they will make the Prada Cup semi-final. So here it is in full, the capsize with Terry Hutchinson talking us through just what happened at the official press conference today, which you can see in full at sailorgirlhq.com.
40 seconds before we tacked, it was blowing 12.5 knots of wind. And when we tacked to bear away, it was blowing 23.5 knots of wind. And when you look at the wind graph, the time from 18 knots to 23 knots is about 3 seconds. down, the back stays eased, but then the next thing that happens there is the main sheet gets eased, and that loads into the leeward runner. That's not the reason that the boat tipped over. You know, it was a combination of a couple things that led up to that moment. We're going to do whatever it takes, and that's what we've done from the get-go. You know, there has never been a waiver in the commitment being from Doug and Hap and Roger and the New York Yacht Club, or from our team members. I mean, we're all in this together. You know, we're going 47 knots or something, and there's transverse structure inside the boat, and then there's a longitudinal structure. And so the boat, when you look at it in slow-mo, you know, popped quite a wheelie. The leeward foil came out of the water, and we got a reasonable amount of bow altitude up. And when the boat slammed down, it's fine if it slams flat on its keel, but when you land on the side on the flat panel, basically the structure inside the yacht just guillotined the panel. In seriousness, it'll be a big effort to get the boat to go sailing for the semis, and we have a realistic timetable. We have great support from the Auckland maritime and boat building community to help us. We've had great support from all the teams. You know, everybody has offered up their services to get Patriot back on the water. I think what we're going to see over the next, 8 to 10 days is the boat get rebuilt, and she might not come out of the shed as pretty, but she's going to come out of the shed, and we're going to get back into racing.
I'm going to get out of the shed and get on back to racing. Business as usual. Smooth talker. Let's see what they can do over the next few weeks. I'm really excited to see if they can pull it off. I'm confident that they can at least get back out on the water for some racing. So, wow. What a 36-hour period. It's been an emotional roller coaster. But let's not forget the scores so far. And for all those in the UK who are watching, a massive shout out to you. INEOS Team UK have 4 wins from 4 races. Rossa, Prada, Pirelli have 2 from 4 races. And the UK have 0 from 4 races. The things that we've taken out of the first 2 round robins, though, is that New York Yacht Club were matching, at least with Rossa, Prada. Rossa, Prada have matched with New York Yacht Club, at least in breeze. And we've seen a few things that we didn't expect. Prada are fast in breeze. INEOS Team UK are fast in everything. Fantastic. And it's going to be some great racing coming up too, even if it's just between Rossa and INEOS Team UK for that top spot. Again, guys, you can find me on your social media channels. There's a stack of chat happening on the Adventures of a Sailor Girl Facebook channel. You can find us on Instagram or on Twitter, where I am talking about the racing frequently. I'm actually commentating it there, or of course on YouTube if you prefer to watch these videos there. And a shout out to all of our YouTube viewers, if that's where you're watching. Fantastic to have you with us this evening. I'll have a full wrap of round robin 1 and 2 for you tomorrow, guys, to enjoy while we lead into the racing on Friday. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you have a fantastic Monday, or had a fantastic Monday. Time for me to get some shut-eye. Keep those comments coming. I really love having you involved, and I look forward to some more fantastic racing in the Prada Cup. See you all very soon.